Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With episode 817 of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and it is Thursday, so you know exactly what that means. We are here to break down everything that happened over the last week across NXT and AEW, but not only that, this is a doubly special episode as we have results from week one of NXT Gold Rush and your 2025 AEW Full Gear Ultimate Preview. An absolutely loaded show ahead, plenty of performance-enhancing audio for your ear holes, so let's not waste any time off the top. Allow the Silver King to remind you that the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast
is all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we'll read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all that good stuff. You can send in questions and comments for the show this weekend, before and after AEW Full Gear 2025. You can vote in pre and post show polls, and we will of course factor those in to our AEW Full Gear Instant Analysis podcast coming out as soon as that pay-per-view goes off the air. Speaking of scheduling, there is some special stuff coming your way here at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. As mentioned, we'll have the instant analysis this weekend. On Monday, joining the Silver King for the first time here at Getting Over, none other than All Ego Ethan Page, the NXT North American Champion, AAA Mixed Tag Team Champion, alongside Chelsea Green, stops by the show. We had a 30-minute conversation. Cannot wait to present it to you. It's going to ruffle some feathers. People are going to be up in arms about it, potentially. Either way, can't wait for all of you to listen to and watch it, which of course you will be able to do, as always, by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Getting Overcast. You can listen to full-length audio episodes and watch full-length video interviews. Our hope is that the podcast and the YouTube go out simultaneously on Monday. That way, through whatever form of media you want to listen to, the Silver King and All Ego, you will be able to do exactly that. But don't forget, again, to subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. Following that bonus episode on Monday, of course, will be our WWE programming. On Tuesday, your 2025 Survivor Series War Games Ultimate Preview. Thursday, we'll be back talking NXT and AEW. And then next Saturday, we will have your WWE Survivor Series War Games Instant Analysis. So huge week, 4 episodes next week, 3 this week. That is how we do it for you right here at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Not wasting any further time getting into today's show, let's begin with our breakdown of NXT Gold Rush Week 1. We'll also give you a brief preview of Week 2. And of course, the main event, for lack of a better term, on today's show, the AEW Full Gear 2025 Ultimate Preview. As always, there are timestamps in the episode description. So if you decide to skip around, if you're listening to us much closer to the major show this weekend and you want to just hear the Ultimate Preview for Full Gear, you will have that opportunity. As always, I hope you listen to the entire show. All right, so kicking everything off with NXT Gold Rush, I kind of just wanted to say at the start, the theater at Madison Square Garden, it may actually be the perfect road venue for NXT. Everything about it works, the setup, the lighting, the visuals, the sound. It's just perfect. Now, obviously, they couldn't do a residency there, nor could they move operations there. But man, if they are ever going to build out a facility specifically for TV beyond what they have at the Performance Center, I would take notes on the way that is designed and set up, because NXT rarely looks better than when it is at the theater at Madison Square Garden. Getting into the show, the main event was the Women's Championship. Tatum Paxley defending against Jacy Jayne. Fatal Influence backstage were proud of themselves for getting title matches across both shows, gassing one another up, saying they would all walk out as champions. This appropriately main evented. Fans briefly chanted Perfect 10 during the break for Shawn Spears, well after Jayne hit a really nice apron cannonball. Jacy took Tatum off the ropes, only to eat a super kick coming back. Paxley later hit a standing Harlem hangover. Vic Joseph recognized it immediately, clocked it, as did Booker T, obviously. Great shout there. Jayne landed another cannonball in the corner, only to eat an enziguri on the ropes, followed by an avalanche swinging fisherman's neckbreaker, shifted into a fisherman's driver. Izzy Dame then slid a steel chair into the ring. Tatum immediately pushed it out, nearly getting rolled up because she didn't want to cheat. Paxley then took out Lainey Reed, only to eat a PK from Jacy, who started limping on that foot. However, she immediately capitalized with a perfect rolling encore for a false finish. When Lainey grabbed the title, Izzy slugged her in the face, took the title, threw it to Tatum. Jacy grabbed it. The referee caught her trying to use it. Paxley nearly won with a rolling pin, but when she got thrown out of the ring after twice denying usage of a weapon of some kind, Spears and Nico Vance stood in her way, preventing re-entry. Dame then straight booted her head off, threw her back under the ropes into the ring, and Jayne hit a second rolling encore to regain the NXT championship. Man, I knew people were going to be big mad about this booking, and y'all got even madder than I expected. Guess what? That's the point. Your boy, the Silver King, saw this coming from a mile away. This is one of the two ways WWE books underdog babyface champions. And you can argue about whether it's right or wrong, but it's usually effective in getting them even more over than they were before. The signs have been there from the start, of course, with Izzy not seeming to actually be in Tatum's corner before she won the title, then acquiescing, having her back, but kind of being ticked off that Paxley was ignoring all of her legitimately solid advice. Whether this will be booked as pre-planned or a result of Tatum twice turning down weapons does not matter much, but she repeatedly decided to not take the Cullings' help. And as a babyface from the perspective of heels, she got what she deserved. Izzy is going to be a mega heel on Tuesday. She'll be able to tease Tatum about having the shortest women's championship reign in NXT history. The key is what happens from here, because that's going to be crucial. If WWE capitalizes on Paxley, calls her up to the main roster, puts her over with Lyra Valkyria and Bayley on Raw, boom, that works. If she wins the Iron Survivor Challenge and rematches Jacy at New Year's Evil and wins the title back, it'd be a little bit too hot potato for my liking, but that would solidify her even more. If they hold a rematch until Stand and Deliver, well, then you just have me questioning what the hell is going on with Jacy and Fallon Henley not being on the main roster by that point. But if Tatum wins there, okay. If Tatum just remains in NXT, feuds with Izzy, maybe loses, and then doesn't return to the championship picture, then it will be an abject failure. I cannot imagine that will be the move. Not with NXT heavily featuring her for the 3 weeks that she was champion. Let's not forget, Tatum earlier this year was jobbing to Jada Parker. And I try not to use that term on the show unless it's a true job, but that's what that match was. She just got squashed. She didn't even get a PLE match in her entire NXT career until Halloween Havoc. And we were pissed, don't forget, about how she was overlooked, thrown out of the ring right away during the Evolution Battle Royal. Look how she's being booked now as a champion in a main event storyline involved in a huge angle. If you believe that they're just going to reverse course and say, nah, you're actually the girl that we all thought you were, go back to being low mid-card, you're kidding yourself. Now, I could definitely see us getting the Tyra reunion that we wanted in NXT with Lyra helping Tatum win the title back, considering it was the Culling trying to push Valkyria away from Paxley leading into and coming out of her first championship win. The match was extremely strong, not spectacular. Jayne is fully formed. Paxley is almost there. They're great working partners with one another. I'm at 3.75 stars, B+ for the match. I thought they delivered. Absolutely loved the finish with the guy standing in her way. Cold, calculated, callous, disastrous for a white meat babyface. And Tatum on Tuesday, I'm telling you, I don't know if she's going to be on the taped show because I don't know what they did. So maybe they hold it off 2 weeks until after Thanksgiving. The next time Tatum Paxley is in front of the WWE audience in NXT, WWE Performance Center, or wherever, she's going to be mega over, and Izzy is going to be mega heel with massive heat. And it seems like a concerted effort there's few things that, we can sit here and say, I trust where they're going with this. Until I'm proven wrong. Obafemi interrupted Ricky Saints as soon as he entered to open hour 2. Saints said Femi returning last week was a surprise, but it wasn't one when Saints beat him at no mercy. He basically said he won't apologize for recognizing Oba weakening and taking advantage of that, adding that NXT has rolled along just fine without him, even if his presence is welcome. Femi, who was shirtless wearing jeans looking like a badass, said Saints has not changed during his absence, which is good because he wants to focus on taking down the same guy who beat him for the title. Then Oba said, quote, "The ruler is back. The destroyer is back. The bringer of war is back. Your daddy is home."
Oh! Yes! I love that!
Massive pop. Hell of a freaking line. Saints, he stood 10 toes down with Femi trying to intimidate him. Ultimately, he agreed to a rematch at Deadline. Just as the segment was ending, Trick Williams interrupted, reminding the guys he's not done with them until he wins the NXT Championship back. But then Miles Bourne took him out from behind with a chair to the back, grabbing a mic, saying he will be the next Iron Survivor Challenge winner, and he will be waiting for the winner of Oba and Ricky at New Year's Evil. This was a nice swerve at the end. Did I roll my eyes when Trick's music hit? I absolutely did. But if NXT is going to use him to put Miles over before Williams gets the main roster call, that totally plays. And Ava did book that match for next week, so that may well be Williams' last appearance. I cannot see him being in the Iron Survivor Challenge match. This show is taped week 2 of NXT Gold Rush. They did it immediately after, the week 1 show this past Tuesday. So I'm not looking at spoilers. The opinions I give you during the show, the predictions I make, they are completely free of any information. I like to operate into and coming out of shows just as you are, because that's what you deserve. Ricky and Oba put together a strong segment here just to kind of wrap this up. Femi straight cooked, bro, though. Like, that line was dastardly. And the fans reacted perfectly in kind to that. Saints is a far better promo than what he showed here. So he probably held back purposefully to kind of let the neophyte shine. With 2 more NXT episodes until Deadline, I am sure Saints will have an opportunity to cook, probably on the live go home back in Orlando. That would be my guess. Ava made an NXT Deadline announcement backstage during the show, saying Legends will no longer be selecting the Iron Survivor Challenge participants in groups. Instead, it will be one person deciding every participant. And when she paused here, I said, yeah, Shawn Michaels, because you don't need anyone other than Shawn Michaels making these decisions. But that's not the name she uttered. Instead, it was John Cena. Those announcements are coming next week. Tavian Heights then got interviewed in the crowd, saying 2025 has been a massive year for him. He can't wait for Cena to choose him for the match. Josh Briggs blindsided him, leading to a huge brawl into the concourse. That concluded a good 30 minutes later, with Briggs finally putting Heights through a table with a spinebuster. Even though it's obviously kayfabe, I'm sure Cena didn't scout everyone himself and handpick 10 people. Though, you know what? Now that I say that, maybe he did a bit, because he was at the WWE Performance Center recently. He met a bunch of NXT people. I believe in the past he said that he tries to watch NXT, and he's definitely a student of the game. He's on flights all the time. He's doing a bunch of shit. So maybe he's watching this product, and maybe he had some hand in these selections. I don't want to sit here and say it definitely didn't happen, when I guess there's at least a possibility, there's a plausibility that it did. But again, even if the choices are being made for him, Cena announcing the names, it adds gravitas to the selections, and it's far cooler than the random assortment of veterans they've used in the past. Oh, here's Medusa and X-Pac and Bubba Ray. Yeah, they're just going to choose the people. And they're not watching the product regularly. Good job by WWE using Cena's attendance Monday night on Raw as a means of pre-taping content. Their reluctance or unwillingness to do so throughout this entire retirement run has been maddening to me. This is the perfect usage of him, especially on a holiday show with the gimmick of WWE versus NXT on Saturday night's main event coming up. Heights was given a huge opportunity here. Unfortunately, he sank. He got lost twice during his promo, completely froze up at one point. Look, you got to get the reps under your belt, but he really cracked under pressure here. The Briggs attack and the late spinebuster, that were solid. North American Championship, Blake Monroe defending against Sol Ruka. Zarya backstage double-checked with Ruka that she felt comfortable actually competing. Sol basically snapped back at her in a, yeah, I'm sure, type of mode, and Zarya clearly made a face of displeasure. Blake came out wearing a towel with a skyline decoration.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
For real. Monroe hit a sling blade and a spinning sidewalk slam early before swinging Ruka's leg into the ring post and continuing to work the appendage. Sol came back with a German suplex out of the corner and a missile drop kick before kipping up on one leg. Super impressive. Monroe dragged her off the ropes during a presumed Sol snatcher attempt, and Ruka later landed a step-off moonsault ringside. I saw people were calling this a Sol snatcher, but I didn't think she hit the move that way, so I just thought it was a step-off moonsault. Blake chopped out Sol's knee back inside the ring, put her in a single-leg crab. She did a shin to her shoulder from, behind before ripping off the knee brace, throwing it down the ramp. I figured a heel would keep the knee brace in the ring and use it, but okay, she threw it out. Sol collapsed, attempting a super kick, so Blake basically put her in a knee lock as Zarya found a white towel ringside. She hesitated, tossing it into the ring, but when Monroe pulled all the way back and Ruka screamed, Zarya threw in the towel. And they announced the finish as throwing in the towel as opposed to saying surrender or, whatever the case, submission, whatever the case might be. I've never heard, I don't think, a ring announcer say, and the winner and still champion is Blake Monroe via throwing in the towel. I just thought that was odd. But this was good creative. And it's all they needed to do for the original match. In fact, it would have been so much more impactful because Zarya would have actively cost her the championship rather than doing it when she's a contender here, having already de facto relinquished it because Zarya lost it for her. Blake was diabolical during this match. And you know what? It was her best effort bell to bell thus far in WWE. Not necessarily from a work rate or star rating perspective, though maybe that way also, but how she let the action tell the story and develop her in-ring character. Plus, she snapped at the end of this match from the woman from hell back into the glamour, which was super cool. Monroe was the one who stood out, despite the entire match being about Zaruka more than her. From the extended segment last week to this match, Blake has picked up so much momentum of late. You could make an argument in all of American professional wrestling, no one's arrow has pointed higher the last 2 weeks than Blake Monroe. Sol did well enough. She was inconsistent selling the knee. There should be more psychology from a babyface when selling an injured joint, like not attempting move after move that actively strains it, maybe going into the motion to do a kip up, but not actually doing it because you only have one knee. I know it was cool the way she landed on one, but still, give a little bit more thought to this and process this out more so than just, I'll do my stuff and occasionally limp. So if you're going to do some of those moves, perhaps hesitate. Show that you're thinking about it. That's the difference between good and great, and it's why she's still in developmental. Zarya played her role perfectly. While I still have problems with how this story has been told and how it got to this point, on Tuesday night, it kicked major ass, and it was the best match on the show. 4 stars, A-. Zaruka later argued backstage with Sol, obviously upset Zarya threw in the towel. Zarya confronted Ruka about pride being her downfall, saying she's not the bad guy for protecting someone, basically who she loves, and she didn't want her to be sidelined for multiple months after she got her leg snapped when she shouldn't have been wrestling in the first place. It was frosty between them as Zarya wanted to kind of concentrate on her speed match next week, and it would be quite a swerve for Sol to be the one who turns heel, maybe even costing Zarya that match. But that's what feels like is getting set up right now. As we know, basically everyone who is main roster bound gets a run as a heel and a face in NXT. So it's quite possible that this is exactly what's happening here. Ruka, she's not ready for a call-up yet, as much as people want to call for it. But Zaruka as a team, they would work well on SmackDown. We'll see. But let's be honest about this. Sol in kayfabe is the one being a selfish idiot week in and week out. This despite trying to appear unselfish in relinquishing the titles. Zarya has done absolutely nothing wrong but try to protect her friend. So if either of them turn heel, it needs to be Sol, not only in storyline, but because it would be far, far more interesting. The AAA Mixed Tag Team Championships. Ethan Page and Chelsea Green defending against Joe Hendry and Thea Hale. This appropriately opened the show. Crowd was on fire for them. Hale caught Page with a brief Kimura lock before drop-kicking Green into him, hitting a tornado DDT for a fire sequence. Alba Fire then distracted Hendry so Page could land a confidence breaker. Hendry hit a surprise Hurricanrana fallaway slam before Hale did a trust fall outside into both heels. Ethan got heat breaking a female fall, so Thea did the DX chop and Shawn Michaels super kick, the sweet chin music, right on him before putting Chelsea in the Kimura. The guys did a drive-by breakup that allowed Green to take advantage with Unpretty Her on Hale for the title retention. Fun-ass match. All four of them crushed it. Paige being willing to not just take a ton of offense from Hale, but sell hard for her was awesome. Interesting that I don't believe Green really got anything on Hendry, but it obviously works far better when it's the babyface woman doing it to the heel guy. Hot potatoing the titles, it would not have made any sense after strapping up Chelsea with the United States Championship. And I'm now kind of curious to see where these mixed tag team titles go. It would be a surprise to see them on the main roster. They're definitely pairs that would work if you booked it properly from Maine that could go against Ethan and Chelsea. It would also be an interesting way to get Ethan up to SmackDown. 3.5 stars in a B. But this was really just a great time for all. And that great is more about how fun and exciting and captivating the match was for the audience than just like the bell-to-bell quality, of what we got here. As is always the case with NXT, and this is a huge standout thing for the CW, but certainly it helps on Netflix as well. During these commercial breaks, when matches are happening, you get to see everything going down. And when it comes to Netflix, you get it full screen, whereas on the CW, you just get that picture in picture. Silver King, every time he watches NXT, Raw, SmackDown, he sees everything. And you know why? It's because I'm always logged into NordVPN. Whether it's Raw, SmackDown, NXT, premium live events on Netflix, Saturday night's main event coming up on YouTube, I am all in with NordVPN. It's easy to set up and a drastically better viewing experience with high quality streams and commercial-free shows. All you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover, open the app, quick connect to another country like Canada, United Kingdom, open Netflix, watch your show. That's just the WWE aspect, though. You can save money on AEW pay-per-views like Full Gear this weekend. You can even watch other sporting events that don't air in your home region just by using NordVPN. It also allows you to get around online censorship or surveillance and protect your private data when web browsing. Plus, one NordVPN account, it can be used on 10 devices. To get the best discount from NordVPN, again, go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link will give you 4 extra free months off the 2-year plan, and there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. So improve your WWE viewing, save money, browse safer online, and get the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. It is great to have NordVPN as the official singular sponsor of your boys right here at the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast. Moving to the NXT Tag Team Championships, Dark State defended against Javon Evans and Leon Slater. Evans basically distance jumped from the ring apron to the announce table before helping hit stereo high-risk moves ringside to take out the heels. Slater had a tremendous hot tag before Evans came back for Red Dot, and I think he fed a dude to Slater for Utopia. Javon then distracted as Leon landed a twisting tope con hero over the ring post outside. Evans caught Osiris Griffin with his springboard cutter back inside, landing a massive frog splash for a false finish. I'm not sure Griffin, of all people, should have been the one kicking out of that combo, but that's what they did. Dark State got involved after this. A distraction from Saquon Sugars led to Slater eating a toss powerbomb. Javon tried to break it up with a springboard splash, but Dark State moved. Evans landed on Slater, and the champions landed Doomsday Device on Slater to retain the titles. This was, let's call it, one-sided excellence. Javon and Leon were phenomenal as usual. I'd have liked more tandem moves and efforts from them because they're just so unique and so talented and athletic. They should be doing things together, not just separately that are the same. But as we projected last week, it made no sense for them to win the titles in this spot. Not after Dark State had just taken them back from the Hardys. One way or another, coming out of this, Javon Evans must win his next title match, whatever that is. I didn't expect him to win here, but it's getting ridiculous at this point. He should have won the tag team titles with Cedric Alexander 2 years ago. He should have already won the North American Championship. I'm still confident that he takes down Oba at, let's say, Stand and Deliver, but that's 5 months from now. Put him over Ethan Page for the North American strap, let's say at Deadline in December, and have him drop the title at some point in March, and then put him in Stand and Deliver the main event against Obafemi for the NXT Championship. That's the booking. I gave it to you, NXT, Shawn Michaels, WWE. That's what you need to do. But Javon needs a championship. This was not the one, but he needs one sooner than later. By the way, in case you didn't notice, the heels cleaned up Tuesday night. 4 for 4. They won every match. That's tough to do and still put on an entertaining show. I felt NXT accomplished it. Babyfaces had some other moments. Chelsea and Ethan, even though they're heels, they get cheered like they're babyfaces. Hendry and Hale got most of the action in that match anyway. But yeah, 4 for 4 heels on like the one of the 2 Gold Rush shows that actually matters, considering the next one is a bunch of Evolve, Speed, and other crap. That was some gutsy booking. And I'll tell you straight up, it worked. To my utter surprise, there should almost always be a big babyface moment on any television show, pay-per-view, premium live event, whatever the case. They chose to forego that here. And somehow, in typical Shawn Michaels creative fashion, it was successful. Elsewhere on NXT, Lola Vice was venting to Jordynne Grace about losing the mixed titles to the heels initially. Grace took the opportunity to vent back about how Kalani Jordan attacked her, then blamed everyone else. Jordynne came through talking shit, wearing darker clothes and makeup, reminding that Vice kicked her out of the locker room. Lonnie contended that she was chosen and called Grace jealous of her once again. Minimal build for next week's match, but since we know Lonnie is retaining anyway, didn't really need that much. The real question again is what's going to happen with Grace when she loses yet another title match? You put her in the Iron Survivor Challenge for sure, but like, what about after that? Maybe they bubble up the Blake Monroe feud again for Stand and Deliver. That's where Grace finally wins her first WWE strap. But I'm not entirely sure what they're doing with her. Ren Sinclair and Kendall Gray commiserated backstage about the huge opportunity for the Evolve title to get featured on a major show. They talked about Charlie Dempsey and others invading TNA last week, to which Ren revealed that Charles has been ghosting her. She didn't even know he was back in the United States. I remain interested about where this Ren QCC deal is going. They're such white meat baby faces. It should be easy enough to build out a group, but it has been stagnant the last couple of weeks. Sinclair getting more TV time, it's great. She needs in-ring opportunities that go beyond 3 to 4 minutes. It's getting absolutely ridiculous at this point. I don't know that it's going to resolve itself. She should be in the Iron Survivor Challenge again like she was last year. And by the way, she was fantastic in that match. That's the last time that she did something substantially relevant in the ring. We're talking a year ago. So I want her back in that match this year, and I want her doing damn well. I mean, she probably won't win, but multiple falls, not one this time. Multiple falls, give her a real shot. And I promise NXT, if they do, Ren Sinclair will surprise them. Shiloh Hill got a debut video package as the LFG Season 2 winner. He was coding on a computer, saying he's neither a nerd from going to Stanford nor a jock having played football for the Cardinal. He shared stories about skipping school as a kid, but being so smart he was able to kind of level up in classes and explore dark web stuff. Hill was even more excited about knocking the wind out of dudes on the gridiron. This was interesting. Shiloh impressed during season 1 of LFG. I have not seen season 2 yet. He comes across as more well-rounded and ready for NXT than some of the other winners, than really any of the other 3 winners, now that I think about it. This package, though, the tone of it felt off. He came across as someone that has something wrong with himself mentally, but it didn't exactly fit the information that provided. Maybe everything falls into place with part 2. Maybe the odd creepiness factor, the tonality of this was completely purposeful. I'm rooting for this guy. He has a lot of talent. I think he will succeed. But I need to find out a little bit more about what this was and what the idea is before I can tell you whether this is a buy or sell. Because right now, it was frankly kind of off-putting in his debut video package, whatever you want to call it. NXT Gold Rush, week 2 obviously occurs with Thanksgiving on the horizon. 4 title matches booked for the show. The TNA Knockouts Championship, Kalani Jordan defending against Jordynne Grace and Li Ying Lee. I can't imagine that they would do a TNA title change on a taped NXT show. I can't imagine Lee being the one to win the title. I can't imagine Grace reverting back to being TNA Knockouts champion now that she's in WWE. It's just all options here other than Kalani Jordan winning, don't make a lot of sense. So I have Lonnie retaining the TNA Knockouts championship. I do think it'll be a quality match, but this is the only one on the entire card that like actually draws you in and makes you interested in watching. Speed Championship, Zarya against Fallon Henley for the vacant title, both due to what happened with Soul and Jacy winning the NXT Women's Championship. Maybe they actually do go with this whole concept of, Fatal Influence holding all the titles. I don't know. But Fallon makes a lot more sense to win the Speed title than Zarya. Actually, now that I'm saying that, Zarya could win it. Soul could be jealous of her. But it's the Speed title. Like, who really cares? I'm going to go ahead and say Henley. Yeah, Henley wins the Speed Championship. Evolve Championship on the line. Kendall Gray defending against Laney Reed. I mean, look, Laney winning would then give all 3 Fatal Influence members championships. But Kendall just won the Evolve title and beat Callie Armstrong for it. And that was a hell of a match. It was the best match in new WWE Evolve history. And sure, they could flip it and take her off Evolve and put her on NXT full time, but Laney's already on NXT. So what would be the purpose of flipping the title from an Evolve talent to an NXT talent to ensure that it's not on NXT and it's primarily on Evolve? It doesn't really kind of fit. Laney probably should have been Evolve champion rather than join Fatal Influence, and that would have made a lot more sense had they pulled that and just brought Kendall up to, the NXT brand. But I don't see how you're introducing Kendall as Evolve champion, then taking Laney Reed, who's the third in her faction and a distant third, to Jacy and Fallon, and saying, yeah, let's have Laney, beat Kendall, especially when Ren is there to help. And theoretically, Carmen Petrovic could be there to even out the sides as well. And maybe that's the feud that's going to come out of this. Ren QCC against Fatal Influence. I could see that going down. I'm going to have Kendall retain the Evolve championship here. And for the men, Jackson Drake defending his Evolve title against Sean Legacy. Legacy is really someone who should be called up to NXT and be a part of that brand. He does not need Evolve. He is well past that. At the same time, there's only so many spots in NXT. And Drake has done a fine job with the championship. Legacy winning it, doing a brief run, and then getting called up to NXT. That makes sense as well. Plus, since they feature these champions and titles, on NXT regularly, despite Silver King not wanting them to, then it doesn't preclude him from showing up on the show just because he has it. So I'm going to go with the title change here. Sean Legacy beating Jackson Drake, becoming the new Evolve champion. So running those down, Lonnie retention, Fallon winning the vacant title, Kendall retention, Legacy new champion. We'll see how the Silver King hits on these, but I am excited to watch NXT next week. And by the way, I mentioned this. I think I said the NXT and AEW show would be out on Thursday. I'm realizing now Thursday's Thanksgiving. Good chance it's out Wednesday night. If not, might be out Thursday morning. Either way, you will still get a podcast, plenty of performance-enhancing audio for your ear holes during Turkey Day, Black Friday, and going into next weekend. That wraps up the NXT portion of this show, allows us to move over to AEW. Now, we are going to separate a lot of what happened on television that may or may not had complete direct references to Full Gear. We're going to cover as much of that as we can on its own. And then we will have your AEW Full Gear Ultimate Preview, where we will integrate a lot of stuff that happened from Dynamite and or Collision into the breakdown of that card. This week, there were more than 5 hours of AEW TV that the Silver King watched. Despite a 3-hour show Wednesday, AEW had an overrun. Ridiculous. As such, look, match breakdowns are just going to be shortened. Also, I'll be referring to everything from Wednesday as Dynamite, even if it was on hour 3 of the show. Think of it as like Raw's War, right? Raw and then the War Zone. It's just all Dynamite, okay? And then Collision we'll refer to last Saturday's show. In terms of match relevancy, man, Tony Khan didn't even bother to book Collision on Saturday. He went 0 for 6 in terms of valuable bouts. Just matches to have matches. Saturday's Collision was an awful episode of television. Ultimately, 7 of 15 matches were storyline relevant, which is actually pretty solid when they went 0 for 6 on Collision. That means 7 of 9 on the 3-hour Dynamite were storyline relevant. And that, is solid for Wednesday in terms of the entire week, 47%. Not great, Bob. That said, a lot of those relevant matches were just like, number 1, number 2 spot for the gauntlet and similar deals to that. The tournament matches for the women's tag team championships. So, some of them had storylines, but a lot of them just kind of happened almost in a vacuum. Regardless, let's break down everything that happened on AEW. We're going to start with as much as we can before we get to the entire Ultimate Preview for AEW Full Gear, and there is a separate timestamp in the episode description for that. Before I continue, I'm actually remembering one other item I wanted to mention here. My fault. Tony Khan sat down for an interview with Ariel Helwani this week, and Silver King was prepared to watch the entire interview, break it down here on the show. I was told it was a much better performance than the first time he was on, and then obviously they got into it with each other, and he didn't go back for 2 years, whatever the case. So it's late in the day Thursday, and I'm like, oh man, I really got to tape this show, but I really want to watch this interview first. Let me sit down, watch it, take some notes, and then I'll do the show. And then I opened the interview, and it was an hour and 20 minutes. If it was 20, 30, 40 minutes, I would have watched it. I simply did not have 80 minutes to watch Tony Khan do an interview with Ariel before taping this episode. So between now and next Thursday's show, I will watch the interview. I'll take some notes, give you my thoughts on how it went. From the clips I've seen, Tony handled himself not only better than last time, which is almost impossible not to do because it was a horrendous interview the first time they sat down with one another, but as well as I've ever seen him handle himself in any interview. But again, I need to see the answers in full, the questions that were asked, what Tony did and did not say, how much he still held back. I will give you a full evaluation of it next week right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Again, in terms of AEW from this week, on Collision, Death Riders beat Jay Lethal, Tommy Billington, and Adam Priest in a match that happened for some reason. Jon Moxley was on commentary for the show. Nothing was said and nothing was different after Blood and Guts. This match going 11 minutes was silly. Pac bragged afterward about setting Darby Allin on fire, then challenged him for Full Gear. Pac looks like his muscles are going to explode out of his skin. The hair and gear, that's another thing altogether. Much later in the show, fans chanted, "You tapped out" at Mox after a conglomeration video package. So Mox grabbed the mic, acknowledging the faces won a single match, but he said they're not capable of doing it again. He was willing to fight any match, anytime, any place. I really do not want to see another match between these sides. Plus, how do you level up from Blood and Guts, stabbing and mauling? That should be a feud ender. The fact that it's already continuing is frankly ridiculous to me, but they do have a solid match scheduled for Full Gear involving Mox. On Dynamite, Mox and Claudio Castagnoli beat Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong. This was the match of the night. Great work from all four guys, even considering the long stretches without tagging or really much match formula. Wheeler Yuta distracted, completely goading Orange into chasing him around the ring, only for him to get caught with a European uppercut and a bulldog choke. I thought Claudio was legal at this juncture, but it was kind of tough to say again. Lack of tagging. Kyle O'Reilly ran out, put Mox back in an ankle lock with a grapevine, completely no-selling kicks from Yuta and Daniel Garcia, who just looks like a total dork now. The heels were unable to capitalize despite a 4-on-3 advantage. O'Reilly then challenged Mox to a no-holds-barred match at the pay-per-view. I still remain confused as to where this booking is going. It worked on Wednesday. Kyle has definitely been leveled up, dominating Mox the way he has recently. We'll come back to this in a bit. On Collision, Toni Storm cut her typical promo with Mina Shirakawa backstage. Most of it sucked, but she had a great closing line. Quote, "Don't ask God for mercy. He's a big fan of our work." Killer close. On Collision, Ty Mello beat Taya Valkyrie in 2 minutes. This was only done to say that they had more than one women's match on the show. I could only laugh at that. She actually beat up their entire stable by herself. This was awful. Marina Shafir attacked after the bell, doing her only move, and then Mother's Milk. Tony saved, hitting Storm Zero. Mox's reaction to his woman getting the shit kicked out of her was, quote, "Well, I didn't see that coming." Can you sell it a little bit more, buddy? Just a little bit? Ty was later angry backstage that Tony helped her, saying she doesn't want help unless she asks for it. Girl, you are getting your ass kicked. What the hell are you talking about? Then she threatened Shafir ahead of their bout. Outside of the first part being stupid, this was okay. On Collision, Alex Windsor and Rio beat the same jobbers who filled in last week. This got 8 minutes, probably as a middle finger to Nixon Newell and her partner. Why run tournament matches for something ongoing when you can just throw this shit out there? Storm and Shirakawa cut a big screen promo on their first round opponents, with Tony saying the following. Number one, they're non-sexual friends with them. Number two, they will rip off their heads and shit down their backs. So edgy. On Dynamite, the timeless Love Bombs beat Windsor and Rio in a first round tournament match. Tony and Mina had a full tandem entrance with a choreographed dance routine and everything. It was kind of great from the standpoint that it's exactly what I've talked about all the time with WWE tag teams. Why the hell don't Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, for example, have a tag entrance and theme and a name? It doesn't make any sense. Storm ultimately beat Windsor with Storm Zero after a bevy of hip attacks. Good work across the board, all things considered. It did seem a little weird, though, that like Tony and Mina, they were the ones basically to lose blood and guts, and they were just like dancing around, happy-go-lucky. I know Tony was angry, but she still didn't make that much of it. She was just like, okay, let's have fun now. And, we're non-sexual friends and we're going to do these innuendos and stuff. Like, she really should have gotten broken from that. She should have been angry and like pacing backstage, and Mina should have had to calm her down. And then, yes, Mina, I love you. And then you go into it, right? Like it really wasn't logical the way that they're doing this. And that bothered me. On Dynamite, Shafir and Megan Bayne beat Tay J, which is, yes, I know it's Ty J. I call them Tay J. In a first round tournament match, Shafir lightly scratched Anna Jay's back and then put her to sleep in literally 2 seconds with Mother's Milk. They didn't even give Anna a chance to like flail about. She didn't tap out. Marina is apparently so effective that she just puts the move on you and you're immediately asleep. This sucked. Tony and Mina then came out on the big screen saying that they will wear their skulls as pearl necklaces and then pick a stipulation for their semifinal meeting. Then she promised Mox would piss himself with blood after they win the match. I'm saying to myself, why would there be a random stipulation in a tournament match to crown a champion? Well, that's because it's being used to put all four of these teams, or four teams, I should say, on pay-per-view. Seriously, we'll come back to that in the Ultimate Preview. On Collision, Mark Briscoe beat Mark Davis, the idea being he's the lowest rung member of the Don Callis family, and he just is ahead of the forthcoming title challenger. There was no reason for it specifically. The TNT Championship was also defended. Kyle Fletcher retained over Scorpio Sky. You might be wondering why Fletcher gave away a title match with another one forthcoming against a guy who doesn't have a singles win on AEW television since beating Action Andretti more than 2 years ago. I was wondering the same. Davis attacked after, I guess, the other 27 dudes in the family weren't available, so Briscoe and Top Flight saved, with Mark cutting a basic promo afterward. Kyle then informed that he was one title defense away from breaking the record and thus being the greatest TNT champion ever. Yeah, beating Scorpio Sky. Tough competition there, bro. Something else that's been bothering me, and maybe one of you can clarify this for me, because I don't know what's happening. Fletcher ends every promo saying, quote, "Say my full name." But he never makes anyone do it. And also, what's his full name? Isn't it Kyle Fletcher? That's what people say. So isn't it just say my name? But people say his name anyway. They're not refusing to. It's kind of weird, and there's just something about it I'm not understanding. So if I'm missing something here, please hit us up on social media at GettingOvercast. Email me, gettingoverpod@gmail.com. I've Googled this, and I seriously can't figure it out. Just let me know. On Collision, Josh Alexander put Michael Nakazawa, remember him, in an ankle lock while cutting a promo on Kenny Omega, calling himself the Instrument of Destruction. He basically promised to kick his ass one-on-one, and then in the six-man, since there was $1 million on the line. On Dynamite, Kazuchika Okada beat Mascara Dorada in a double Jeopardy match, with the winner getting a title opportunity against the other. Except Dorada is not a singles champion. He's a CMLL Trios champion. So Okada was wrestling on behalf of the family. Nothing having to do with Full Gear, I thought. The match, it turns out, is going to be on the Tailgate Brawl. This was just a booking, I guess, to get the sickos to watch the third hour of the show. Super random. It looked like they tried to do a top rope Hurricanrana, countered into a powerbomb, except it completely failed. I thought Dorada landed on his head and neck. Luckily, he rotated enough to land on his shoulder. If he didn't, he would have been done. Like, possibly the worst case scenario. The referee went to check on him. Okada just picked him up immediately and continued. He ultimately won with a Rainmaker. Woof. It was solid up until that, other than commentary, screaming about it being great. The truth is, these guys did not have great chemistry. They had legitimate talent, obviously. Not great chemistry. Callis then took the mic, screamed about the matchup, saying it would be Okada, Hechicero, and Konosuke Takeshita as the trio representing the family. Okada and Takeshita on a pre-show. Think about that for a second. On Collision, Bandito, Jet Speed, and Juice Robinson beat FTR and LFI in an 8-man tag. Why? I literally cannot tell you. Neither could commentary. They called this very interesting when they came out. That's what they said. And lastly, on Dynamite, Babes of Wrath backstage were proud of themselves for upsetting Mercedes Moné and Athena, which they should be. They cut a fun babyface promo. Definitely into them as a duo, even if both of them are probably better off singles in the long run. It's just nice to see a lot of positivity from an extremely likable pair. There wasn't much to this otherwise, but it was well done. It was also announced on TV that the Continental Classic will begin next week. So with the women's tag team tournament ongoing and a new championship being introduced, a round robin tournament will be run simultaneously. It's just way too much. Now, before we get into the AEW Full Gear Ultimate Preview, the Silver King does need to remind you that here at Getting Over,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Over head. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover, sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. It's $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You get extra content, but more importantly, you support the continuation of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. We have one sponsorship per show, no ads. We're a free program. We would greatly appreciate your support. Okay, let's get into the AEW Full Gear Ultimate Preview. As of right now, it's a 12-match card with 3 on the tailgate brawl, whatever you want to call it. There's also a little bit of development for some of these matches that we have not covered yet. So we're going to go match by match. We'll give you our predictions and picks, what we expect to happen kind of going forward. I say we, the Royal, we, clearly the editorial. I'm talking individually as the Silver King. But I'll go ahead and do all of that for you. And we'll discuss what happened on Dynamite and or Collision leading into these matches. And that should give you an ultimate preview of the show to come. And of course, one more reminder, we will be back once AEW Full Gear goes off the air. Maybe a bit delayed. It is a college football Saturday after all, but we will have your AEW Full Gear instant analysis. Starting with the tailgate brawl, Big Boom, AJ, and QT Marshall are fighting Roppongi Vice. Massive roster. This is the best they can do. Really, Big Boom and QT, I presume, are going to be winning this. The Acclaimed are fighting Bang Bang Gang, Big Bill and Brian Keith, and the Outrunners in a $200,000 match on the tailgate brawl. Acclaimed were reluctant to do it, but they got enticed by the money. Who would spend such funds on a pre-show match involving these teams when, again, you own all of their contracts and can just book them for the show? I guess it needs to be the Acclaimed winning. I can't imagine Outrunners, Big Bill or Brian Keith, maybe Bang Bang Gang. I could see that. But Acclaimed winning and continuing their reluctant partner story is what makes the most sense, especially with $200,000 in the bank. And maybe there's an argument over how they should split it. One guy wants more because he's the one who gets the fall. Maybe there's at least something there. The CMLL Trios titles, yes, believe it or not, are going to be on the line. El Sky team against Okada, Takeshita, and Hechicero on the tailgate brawl. I still cannot believe Okada and Takeshita are wrestling on a pre-show. I wonder who's going to take the fall here. I bet you it's Hechicero. Sky Team retains the titles. The Timeless Love Bombs are going to fight Babes of Wrath, Shafir and Bane, and the Sisters of Sin. The winners of this 4-way get to pick a stipulation for their semifinal tournament match, which again simply does not make a shred of sense. This simply could have been a showcase, or they could have mixed the field and done a choose your opponent type of situation. Better would have been to simply put more women's matches on TV and hold the finals on the pay-per-view, but that obviously proved impossible for AEW. There was a terrible back and forth promo between the sisters on Dynamite. Thekla spoke last. She was way better than the other two. In terms of who wins this really, there's no predicting. I mean, so many different people can take the fall. Mina obviously can lose for the Love Bombs. Either of the women, but especially Harley, can lose for the Babes. Either of the Sisters of Sin can lose. And I guess you're probably not beating Bane, and you're probably not beating Shafir either. So they're not going to factor into the finish. I'd be very surprised if they won this match. Let's go with, I'm really just picking out of a hat, Tony winning for the Timeless Love Bombs, pinning Sky Blue. That's what happens. And I don't know what their stipulation is going to be, because Again, this is kind of out of left field in the first place. Kenny Omega and Jurassic Express are going to fight the Young Bucks and Josh Alexander in a $1 million trios match. This will mark more than $5.5 million in kayfabe money that Tony Khan has spent unnecessarily booking people against other people whose contracts he controls. There's 2 money matches on one pay-per-view. It was thought to be a crutch for TV to book, high quality wrestling matches, chaos matches without reason. Yet they're putting money on the line unnecessarily on pay-per-view. What are we even doing here now, man?
What is going on?
On Dynamite, the Bucks and Alexander beat Skyflight. There was no reason for this matchup other than it being like a tune-up for the heels. Before and again after the match, Callis pitched the Bucks on joining the family, given all the great things he's done for them. He again did their announce with a full entrance before the bell, putting them on the spot following the win for an official decision. When they didn't accept right away, he basically laid out a veiled threat referencing what happened with Omega. So Kenny showed up with a chair, destroyed the family jobbers, went after Alexander. The Bucks pulled him off without really nefarious reasons, but that allowed Alexander to put in the ankle lock. Callis then told the Bucks they could join the faction with a BTE trigger on Kenny. Obviously, Jurassic Express saved and the heels exited. Omega later cut a promo in front of Jurassic Express with Jungle Jack holding a shovel for some reason. Kenny looked a lot better than he has recently. Omega not seeing red, flushed with anger over what the family's done to him, instead accepting a trios match against only one member of that faction. It just rings so hollow given the way that he was torn apart before his last vacation. The money being on the line in this match is patently ridiculous, and while the Bucks turning back babyface is obviously the right decision, they have not really been rehabilitated as people, which will make the turn extremely surface level. Same issue we had with Roman Reigns in WWE. So what's going to happen at Full Gear is Callis will probably try to convince them to use a screwdriver or something. They'll refuse. Omega will beat Alexander. The Bucks will help him, and Jurassic Express beats up the family. And the Elite will either begin reforming or at least make good with each other. Nothing wrong with that. Good storyline for a pay-per-view. I just wish it was done a little bit better. Darby Allin is going to fight Pac. At least we believe he will. On Dynamite, Pac cut a tape promo assuming Darby is scared of him, considering he hasn't shown his face on TV since being set on fire. He insisted his challenge is straight up, no weapons or anything. That way he could prove Allin uses those as crutches and cannot compete with a legitimate athlete like him. Actually pretty solid, both as a promo and a storyline. I cannot imagine a scenario in which Darby loses this match, even with heavy Death Rider's interference, not after he beat Mox, not now that the conglomeration has his back. And really, it's kind of ridiculous this is ongoing. Like, that feud should have been capped by Blood and Guts. It really should have been capped with Darby beating Mox, but they had 2 opportunities and now it's still going. What exactly is the end goal for this now? Where are they going here? So Darby beating Pac, that seems to be what's on the table. I would be very surprised if it went in another direction because, burning someone isn't really debilitating. I mean, yes, you can have 3rd-degree burns and it could really hurt, obviously. But Darby is such a masochist that him having burns on his back shouldn't really slow him down in any meaningful way. And if you're going to have Pac win, then you need Darby to probably have an injury that Pac can take advantage of. And that's not really the way that this has been booked. So I have Darby winning this match. I think it's the right decision. But again, what's the end goal? Where does this go afterward? I don't really see that. Tag team championship on the line, Brodito defending against FTR. The champions cut a promo on Dynamite, putting over FTR as among the greatest tag teams, saying they have yet to prove they can beat their pairing. FTR later did the same, basically saying that they've had a classic match 9 years ago, and you guessed it, they're the greatest tag team of all time. Dax Harwood operates from the standpoint that if you say something enough and you speak with your thumb and pointer finger while you punctuate words, you'll eventually speak that thing into existence. As basic could be from both sides, why bother to create an interesting storyline or anything? In terms of a prediction, this one's really tough because you could have FTR win and you're wondering okay, they win. Don't you want to do the Adam Copeland Christian Cage match for the titles? You do want to do that. And you need FTR to be champions in order to kind of run that back. But Brodito is so freaking over right now. And they've been a great tag team. And FTR doesn't really have a lot of momentum here, even if they're getting booed because, they did some stuff with Bandito's, family. It doesn't feel like it's enough for them to win here. So I have Brodito retaining the title. But if they changed it, I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. Let's put it that way. TNT Championship, Kyle Fletcher defending against Mark Briscoe in a no disqualification match, but a stipulation is added to this as well. Briscoe will leave the conglomeration and join Don Callis' family if he loses. Fletcher and Briscoe were interviewed backstage on Dynamite, with Fletcher excited for the no DQ stipulation due to it creating a no excuses winner. Briscoe got all hyped up about the family as per usual, about his family as per usual, saying he would make his proud. He got attacked from behind, of course, but Fletcher had agreed to no physicality, so he couldn't get involved. It was rather basic from both guys. As I've said before, there's dueling mindsets for me at play here, right? Because on one hand, you've done all these matches. Briscoe has lost when the title is on the line time and again to Fletcher. He really does need to be strapped up. He's one of the most over baby faces in the roster. The crowd absolutely loves him. On the other hand, the interesting storyline coming out of this match is Briscoe in the Don Callis family as a babyface, trying to fight his way through this situation that he finds himself in to get back to being a babyface and get back to glory. In WWE, we've seen it really go both ways. In AEW, they haven't really run the stipulation that frequently. I'm going to go with the title change here. Briscoe beating Fletcher. They've obviously told us on the go home that he's one defense away from, setting the record, one successful defense away from setting the record. And I don't know that he needs to break it. I think tying it is perfectly fine. It's been a solid reign with the TNT Championship. They did something with Fletcher coming out of those world title opportunities. It's time to strap up Briscoe, go with something fun and go in a new direction and give a fun babyface a title in AEW. And I think that's what they're going to do. Kyle O'Reilly is going to fight Jon Moxley in No Holds Barred. This is actually one of the better built matches on the entire card. If it was all just to run this match, that would be a little bit surprising, but I'm also not sure where else it can go. I don't see AEW platforming O'Reilly as a single star, not the guy who's lost 37 title matches. I figured perhaps he was being built up to be the first national champion, surprise babyface winner, but he's not even in the gauntlet match. So while this has been booked well, no question, it does come across to me as more of a TV main event than a pay-per-view match. And I actually feel the same way about Pac and Darby Allin. That's a TV main event, a really big Dynamite main event. It's not really a pay-per-view match. And I did think that they missed the mark here doing a no-holds-barred stipulation instead of a submission match, because submission is the entire storyline between these guys. We've already seen them fight with weapons and blood and no-holds-barred. What we haven't seen is Mox try to get over O'Reilly and get revenge on him the way that O'Reilly beat him and embarrassed him the first time, which is submission. The prevailing sentiment out there seems to be that O'Reilly is going to beat Mox again, and that is going to be the point where everything falls apart for Death Riders. That is quite possible. Let me be very clear. Going into this match, I don't see them booking it that way. O'Reilly has already gotten over Mox, I want to say twice in matches, not counting non-match scenarios like the post-match on Dynamite. I don't know that you just keep having him do this time and time again. And if you do, and even if Mox gets kicked out of Death Riders, how does he recover from that? So I have Mox winning this because it's no holds barred, and maybe they rematch with a submission only stipulation, and then O'Reilly gets his win. But for some reason, I just can't get it out of my head. Mox winning this match. National Championship Casino Gauntlet. There were two matches leading into this. Bobby Lashley beat Ricochet to win the number one spot. Ricochet purposefully meandered in a pre-match promo that was getting clear go-away heat. I hate using this word, but it was cringe as hell. Lashley just standing there as this doofus character talked and talked with his back turned to him was ridiculous, to the point that Tony Schiavone said as much. This is the first time I've ever agreed with Tony. He finally grabbed Rick after 7 minutes for a chokeslam over the ropes into his guys, and he didn't squash him, but he beat him handily. While no reason was given why these two guys specifically were given this opportunity, the match was relevant based on the stakes and their long-standing, seemingly never-ending feud. On Dynamite, Shelton Benjamin beat Mike Bailey to win the number 2 spot. MVP was on commentary. Great clash of styles in this match. Bailey put Benjamin in an armbar, only to get manhandled into the air for a toss slam. Speedball avoided something into the corner, only to get caught with a strong-ass superkick to the face with a 270-degree sell for what should have been a 3 count. Bailey came nowhere close to lifting or moving his shoulder. Instead, The referee just picked up his hand on 3. He looks at these guys, shoulders don't move, nothing. So Shelton's like, well, the referee screwed up. I got to make the most of it. He hit a full release suplex, a knee strike, and then a second super kick. Extremely odd finish. No idea what this ref was doing. While commentary briefly mentioned it after the bell, there wasn't really a conversation around 2 Hurt Syndicate members, friends, fighting one another to open the Casino Gauntlet. That's extremely notable. That should be a major talking point. It was the entire reason for booking the matches this way. And yet they just spent 5 seconds maybe talking about it. This was on its way to getting a really, really nice grade until that finish took the air out of it. In terms of who's going to win the Casino Gauntlet, it's obviously impossible to make a prediction because we have no idea who's going to be involved in the match and who's not going to be involved in the match. So any pick I make is just out of left field. So I'm going to go ahead and say MJF. I don't think he's injured. I think he was away taping something. This would be a good way to bring him back, strap him up with something new. They say that this is going to be what the International Championship was supposed to be, a title that's defended all across the world in a variety of promotions. We've seen MJF do that. He wrestled down in CMLL. He wrestled in Europe. The last time he held the International Championship, I think it was. So he just makes a lot of sense as a name for this. I don't see it being Bobby Lashley, Ricochet, Shelton Benjamin, or Speedball Mike Bailey. Certainly not Kevin Knight or any of those guys either. So I'm just going to go ahead and say MJF, and we'll see if I'm right. A shot in the dark there. But whoever it is, I'll just reiterate once more. This championship existing is ridiculous. Now they're splitting the unified title with this Continental, Classic tournament. So that's going to get split. So you will have the Continental Crown title, the International title held by Kazuchika Okada, the TNT Championship still existing, now the National Championship, and you have the AEW Championship, all for the men's singles division. We've done the math previously. I'm not going to do it again. It's just patently absurd, frankly. Women's Championship, Chris Statlander defending against Mercedes Moné. None of Mercedes' titles are on the line, which is silly. If you're Chris, why would you not demand at least the TBS Championship or one of the other straps? On Dynamite, there was an ROH TV title match. Mercedes beat Red Velvet to turn her interim title into a real title. Velvet had the championship. She was out injured. Even though this got zero build on AEW TV, I gave it relevancy credit just given the circumstances. Stat being on commentary for this was really the only build to their match, despite it being the first one announced for Full Gear and the best built match on the entire card up until I'd say the last 2 weeks, when I guess it hasn't fallen apart, but AEW just figured, we've done enough. No need to give them any more time. Stat was rough. The match over-delivered to expectation by a significant margin. Mercedes won with a sick avalanche lung blower. It was the best finish on the entire show. Moné celebrated afterward, throwing both belts at Stat as a distraction so she could lock in Statement Maker ringside, with Stat actually tapping to end the show. I went 3.75 stars, B+ for this, and it was the best match on the 3 hours of Dynamite we got Wednesday. No question. Now, this is actually an interesting showdown to prognosticate, considering Stat is the second champion Moné is challenging during this run of hers. She could lose again and possibly begin her downfall, where she drops or relinquishes the rest of her straps, or she could win and have it mark the peak of the angle that's being currently run. So the question is whether Stat is a transitional champion or someone at AEW is actually getting behind. I was leaning toward Mercedes winning the title until that go-home segment. And I know it's not WWE, but it would be pretty damn pathetic for Stat to tap out like that on Wednesday and then go drop the title over the weekend. What do you do with her at that point? This is the first title that she's ever really received as a major push in AEW, despite being in the company for years. And putting her over Tony twice, I don't think you can give up on her that quickly. So I have Stat retaining the title somehow, simply because the alternative would be tough to stomach for a lot of people, and it would really hurt Stat for her to lose here. But I'm open-minded to see what actually happens on the show, and if they do have Mercedes win, perhaps it's done in a way where Stat gets a rematch, beats her, and then that's the beginning of Mercedes' downfall. I'm not entirely sure. There was a point that I thought this should have main evented Full Gear, And it's pretty clear it's not going to. But when they first announced this, and again, this was match 1 set for the card, and it was the best built match for like a month. I was like, wow, they're actually going to have the women main event. And then they just booked a lot of things over it. And I don't want to say put it on the back burner because that's not fair. But they did like slide it backwards, further back than I expected. And that leads us to the expected main event, the AEW Championship, Hangman Page defending against Samoa Joe inside a steel cage. On Dynamite, Hangman beat Katsuyori Shibata in a non-title match. Joe cut a typically strong promo beforehand, though he didn't say much. Page's boot came off in the final stage of the match, but he just put it back on, hit buckshot lariat, got the win. Hangman then cut a promo on Joe, who was on commentary, so he referenced the poncho from WrestleMania. He basically said he singled him out from his crew, and they'll be alone together in the cage. It was fine. Page does not move me personally on the mic. As we've said last week, booking a cage match main event after 2 blood and guts matches was silly. Surely the match will be wrestled in a different style. Joe is not going to do all that bullshit that those guys did. But still, it's ultimately a cage match at the end of the day. Hangman just won the strap. Joe being bubbled up as a challenger here, it's been odd for me given the roster they have and all the options at their disposal. He's done a great job. He's a fantastic main eventer and challenger, but there's never been a belief of mine that they're going to change the strap. And making this a steel cage match certainly didn't enhance that, especially with Hobbs and Shibata getting taken out. Now, could there be another member of the crew joining? It's possible the ops expand. Maybe Hook is like waiting in the wings and he's going to do a heel turn and the whole thing with Eddie Kingston has been a ruse. I don't really see it happening. So I just have Page retaining the AEW championship. And frankly, as a main event, I'm just really not that excited for it. And it shouldn't be the case. You should always care. You should always care as much about the main event as anything else on the card, if not more. And there's multiple matches I'm interested in to a significant degree more than this one. So that wraps up the AEW Full Gear Ultimate Preview. In terms of our pre-show expectation grade, which of course we give on this show, we'll give you a post-show grade on the AEW Full Gear Instant Analysis. Silver King is coming in at definitely a B+. I'm trying to decide on the numerical grade. I'm going to say an 87 out of 100. This card is just not speaking to me at all. That does not mean it's going to be a bad show. That does not mean there's not going to be banger matches. I expect, even though some of these casino gauntlets have disappointed of late, I expect this one to crown a new champion, to deliver and steal the show. That's the expectation. I believe Stat and Mercedes, I almost called her Mo Mercedes or something like that. I was combining the names. Stat and Mercedes, I believe, have a chance to have the second best match on the entire show. Fletcher and Briscoe should be right in there as well. And obviously there's incredible athleticism from Darby and Pac, and O'Reilly and Mox has the potential to be a banger. The rest of them I really just don't care about at all. But most of those matches I mentioned, I'm either more interested in or I believe will be better bell to bell than the main event of the show. And that's really the point that I was making. But I'm at an 87 B+, gives it plenty of room to exceed my expectations. But, you know, there was a period of time earlier this year where the cards that AEW was putting out were just loaded. And I know people are injured, but there's also just been some storytelling issues of late. And the way they've come out of the, you know, Darby, Mox, Death Riders thing and just having it continue and continue, to me, it's made the product like rather, you know, boring to a degree, at least when it comes to the men's division. The women are doing better in many cases. It's great to see, you know, the tag teams getting elevated. It does surprise me that the tag team championship for the women is not on the line on this show. They easily could have run this tournament and gone through the matches, start a little bit earlier, go through the tournament and get the champions crowned on the show. They decided not to do it. We'll see when they do. Maybe it's World's End. Maybe it's an episode of, you know, Dynamite on television. We'll find out. But I'm at an 87 out of 100. All of you will have the opportunity to vote in our pre-show poll, posted about an hour before AEW Full Gear goes on the air. Of course, we'll have the post-show poll immediately after it ends. And the way you can find that is by following us on Twitter at Getting Overcast, which is exactly where you can find us on Blue Sky and YouTube. But on Twitter, you can vote in those polls. You also, on Twitter and Blue Sky, get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show. And as I mentioned earlier on YouTube, you can listen to full-length audio episodes and watch full-length video interviews. Our next one coming Monday when All Ego Ethan Page joins the program. Please do not forget
I happen to love the number 5.
And I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Please support us financially. We're a free show. We only have one sponsor, and it's not permanent. I mean, we hope it is. Fingers crossed, NordVPN. Sign up for a long period of time. But we have the sponsor that we have right now. We love them so much, but we're an ad-free show otherwise. We don't charge for the program. We would greatly appreciate your support. Again, buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Also, please remember,
it's all about the 5.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. I appreciate all of you listening to the latest edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. A reminder, back this weekend with AEW Full Gear Instant Analysis. Monday, Ethan Page joins the show. Special episode. Tuesday, your WWE Survivor Series War Games Ultimate Preview. Thursday, your NXT and AEW show. Thanksgiving be damned. And then next weekend, your WWE Survivor Series War Games Instant Analysis. 7 episodes, 2 weeks. That's how we do it right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. It is officially time for the Silver King to sign off and leave you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.